assuring that for the first time we are a viable candidate for the National Convention to be here in Northern Ohio. In addition to his great accomplishments, Rob is also a very accomplished attorney, and most importantly, a great father to a young family. It is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce to you Cuyahoga County Republican Chair Rob Frost.
Well, Tim, thank you for that kind introduction. And Lisa, I said to her, I really apologize for being running late. I've been looking forward all week to being down here, and there's a reason I'm late, but no excuse. So I apologize. I'm glad you all had some things to talk about and some announcements to make and that, and I appreciate your patience in that. Lisa, my favorite AM station, in fact my favorite radio station, is also 1420. We really treasure the partnership that we have with 1420 The Answer and with Tim Vaughn and his team there. And really, I'm honored that Tim would be down here this morning and give me such a very kind introduction. Tim, thank you for that. Well, he might have been a little too glowing, but it was largely accurate in terms of where we are up in Cuyahoga County, in terms of the need that we had to turn around the Board of Elections, in terms of where the party there has been and how we are somewhat put on our heels being such a largely Democrat county, but what we've been able to do, some of the accomplishments with fine candidates coming forward. So I want to talk a little bit about that, a little bit perhaps about the RNC visit that Tim mentioned. I think you all perhaps, since I'm coming late, I don't know, but I'm assuming you all talked a little bit about today being Flag Day. No? Okay. I won't dwell on it too much, but it is. And I hope we at least said the pledge before we started today. So I won't back up all the way to that. But if I were here on time, I'd be coming right after that pledge. And this is the anniversary of the Continental Congress dedicating the flag in 1777, and then of course, whatever that would be, 150 years later or so, in 1949, I didn't do the exact math, but 1949, when today, June 14th, was declared as Flag Day for our country. It's important that we remember that we remember what this flag means and those who have died in defending that flag. And may I ask if we have any veterans with us here this morning? Thank you all for your service. Let's give all veterans. This flag represents the freedom, represents the exceptionalism of this country, represents all that we hold dear, and right now we are as a country, perhaps some would say as a party, although I think that's overstated, but we are as a country at a time, you could say, of crisis, or certainly a crossroads, a time where we've got to help decide where we're going and how we go forward. It's so very appropriate that we remember from where we've come as we do that. So, I said I've been looking forward all week to coming down here. Longer than that. I was really moved when Lisa got in touch and asked me to come back down. I had been down once before. Jim Woods had asked me to come speak, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed being here with you all. I know some of you were here that morning, and had said to Jim, I'd love to come down anytime. And I really treasure and value all he's been able to do as a local leader, all he did both within and without the Republican Party. I wouldn't say, I work in politics. I wouldn't say Jim Woods worked in politics. I would say Jim Woods devoted himself to getting good people elected. That was his involvement in politics. Jim Woods worked in people. He really worked in and with and about the people around him. And it really is a testament to his legacy that you all would be here, and Lisa's work carrying this on. It's so very important what we do. And I think we learned that again this week. There are lessons the mainstream media wants us to take from Eric Cantor's boss. They want to say that there's all kinds of divisions and there's, one side's taken over in the Republican Party or this or that. I'll tell you what I really see is that the expression my grandfather used, what happens when you get too big for your britches. much it was about ideology. I think it was about Eric Cantor having other places to be and other people to talk to than the people in his own district. And so, in fact, there's a lot that I liked about what Eric Cantor was doing. He actually came up and spoke for us in Cleveland not long ago. But now in hindsight, you got to say, well, what was he doing in Cleveland? He should have been down in Richmond. He knew he had an opponent coming at him. He knew he had things that the people in his district cared about that he needed to be talking to them about. And so I think that Dave Bratt seems to be a very solid conservative. I think that he will be a good addition. I know that the Republicans in Virginia are swinging right in behind him. And I know that Eric Cantor, in the remarks that I heard, he didn't put blame anywhere in terms of this is some unhealthy part of the party that's taking something over. No. He talked about what he had heard from his opponent and how much it squared with what he, as a leader in the Congress, was trying to do. He bowed out, you could say gracefully, certainly quickly, and said, you know what, I'm no longer going to be a leader in this Congress. I'm going to hand that off. You know, that's the way transition happens, and sometimes it's very unexpected. But we're able to do that as a party, and that's why I say I don't think as a party we're in crisis, but I do think as a party we are at a time of decision. We face that decision right here in Ohio. We've got congressional races, statewide races. We share a congressman, by the way. Congressman Renacci, his district extends up into Cuyahoga County, comes down this way as well, and on south and even a little bit east from here. We've got to get these Republicans reelected. As imperfect as every human being is, and I'm not casting stones at them, they're the best hope we've got. And we can talk about closer to perfection, and we can talk about nominations next time around, but we've got some very good people doing very good work for us. And Ohio's come a long way in the last 4 years under the leadership of John Kasich. I'm proud that he's our governor. I want to see him reelected as our governor. I agree with him on most things and the decisions he's made as governor, and I'm not going to dwell on the ones where I don't. He's the one who's in the position, not me. And what I do know is that we're a lot better off in this state with the leadership of Bill Batchelder as Speaker and his majority in the Ohio House, with the leadership of President Faber in the Senate and the caucus that he and Larry Alhoff and the others from around Cuyahoga County and Northeast Ohio have in the Ohio Senate. We've got to keep that team there. And again, the lesson I'll take from Eric Cantor is we've got to keep them listening to us. Us right here in Medina County, us up in Cuyahoga County. If they get a little off track, they've got to hear from us, even if the decision is already made. They've got to know that we're working with them. We're not going to, hopefully, have to, kind of quote, take them out, but we're working with them. We want to see them continue to be able to do the job, but we want to help make them better leaders. And that's what it really is about. Look, your leadership here, I see your chair and state central committee members here. Really thank them for being here as well. I've come from a position of leadership. I'm, whether I like it or not, Republican Party establishment. Many of you may feel you're more in line with what mainstream media wants to call the establishment. Many may feel you're more in line with whether you think of yourselves as hardcore conservative or Tea Party or grassroots oriented, or whatever way you look at it. But I tell you, once you get in leadership, you've got an obligation to lead. You've got an obligation to the institution, to the organization. And what is that? Ultimately, for us, comes down to our Constitution and our commitment as a party to uphold that in all that we do. And when you shirk that responsibility, when you say, well, you know, I've always viewed myself as an outsider, because I do. In Cuyahoga County, as a Republican, I view myself as an outsider. But when you continue to view yourself that way, when you're put in a position of leadership, what happens? We see it with Barack Obama. We see it in that phrase, leading from behind. You know, what does he want to do? He wants to continue to be that outsider, blaming the man. Look at him and you go, whoa, President, you're the man now. Make a decision. That was like Clint Eastwood, there was an empty chair here. I love that. So I've got an obligation as a leader in this party, and I'm proud to do it. I feel fortunate every day that I get to get up, go out and work within the Republican Party to help make it better, to help make our leaders better leaders in this party and for this country. But I do have that obligation to work with the organization. And so I take no joy in Eric Cantor losing, even if we might have policy differences, because when you've got incumbents, when you've got leaders that or those who are elected by the party, nominated by, and then elected, well, you're supposed to say, how do we make this better? How would we get those people on the right track? But unfortunately, and I will say it that way as the leader of the party, unfortunately, it takes a little bit of loss for us to remember where we are. I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason. I said earlier that there's a reason I'm late, but there's no excuse. Well, I feel like one of those people who you realize that you're running a little late for church, but you decide, you know what, I've got to go anyway. And you hear a sermon that's very important, it touches you, it makes you reflect how busy you've gotten and how you've gotten away from some of the important things. And I have a good friend of mine who has worked in politics a lot longer than I've even been alive, quite honestly. And he spoke to me the other day about how all the people that he's worked with in Republican politics throughout the years, how so many of them have died, how so many of them have even just recently had a spouse die, had someone close to them, and how he's really looking at what matters, what he's able to do. And we've got some things going on, it was touched on earlier, right in Cuyahoga County that are so very important to where we're going to head as a region and as a state. You know, we've got the Democratic nominee for governor coming out of Cuyahoga County. I'm afraid, due more to party registration than lack of effort, he never got much of an electoral challenge before now. And so he's risen to a pretty lofty position already and considers himself ready to run statewide. And the danger in this state, as split as we've been, as much as we've gone Democrat in the top of ticket race 3 out of the last 4 cycles, Obama and Strickland and Obama, that there's a danger he could get elected governor, as much as you might see polls or fundraising numbers that tell you John Kasin's far ahead. This guy is not at all qualified to be our governor. He's really not qualified to be our county executive. We had a fine candidate 4 years ago in Matt Dolan. Matt would be a tremendous county executive for us, but the registration wasn't there. And by that I mean there were just far too many Democrats who were voting straight Democrat Party line. One thing you might not know, you look at it down here, boy, what a beautiful day to be out in Medina County. And the numbers are a little better here. Medina County's got its own growing pains. Some of it are Democrats leaving Cuyahoga County to come down here and join you. We hope you convert them. But some of that is reflected then in the numbers we've got in Cuyahoga County. Back when Matt Dolan ran, the ratio of Democrats to Republicans in Cuyahoga County was over 4.5 to 1. Over 4.5 to 1. Well over 400,000 Democrats and under 100,000 Republicans. The numbers have changed over the last 4 years. Some of it was the urgency that we felt in trying to elect someone to oust President Obama, to elect a Republican president. Some of it was the urgency and success in electing Governor Kasich. A lot of it, though, has been what we're doing on the local level. Good local candidates like Mike Davila, Dan Baker, and Tom Patton, and Mike Gallagher, and Dave Greenspan, and Jack Schron on the county council. And so we've been active, we've been out there, we've been getting people registered and in voting in our primaries. And we now have over 130,000 registered Republicans, just over 300,000 registered Democrats. See, they've been falling off with the corruption, with there no longer being the corrupt mechanism in place, requiring people to go a certain way and show up and support certain people. And so we're now under 3 to 1. It's now under 3 to 1, the registration of Democrats to Republicans. That doesn't sound great. If you're in a red county, like, boy, you outnumbered just about 3 to 1. I don't know if I'd take that. Well, given where we're coming from, we will. And when we see the track record that Jack Schron has in his own district, where Democrats outnumber Republicans, yet he won resoundingly in his first race. He had to have won, and we can run the numbers, we don't know how individual voters voted, but he had to have won about 2/3 of Democrats, about half of Democrats and about 2/3 of independents in his district to have been able to win. So we know the appeal that he's got. And we know he doesn't even need to get that many of the Democrats this time around. He's got to win the independent vote. But we really believe that he can do that. And what an earthquake that would be in Ohio politics for a Republican to win in Cuyahoga County, and what that would mean for all of us, that we would be able to assuredly elect Republicans statewide. And then the real battle could be in that primary. Who does get to go forward and be the Republican nominee in, let's say, 2018 for governor? I think there's going to be a lot of discussion about that in coming months and years. And so Cuyahoga County, we really believe, is at the center of the change that we can make. We've been making that progress. Tim Vaughn referenced the 3 county councilmen who I just named, Gallagher, Schron, and Greenspan, and the difference they're making. And I believe you can see it. And if you've gotten downtown Cleveland at any time recently, you can feel a bit of a change in the air. It was referenced, we had the RNC visiting downtown Cleveland not too long ago and seeing some of that. And what I'll close with a little bit, and then I want to take some questions, is maybe handicap that race of where we are to bring the RNC convention here. Because when it comes, it's going to be all in Northeast Ohio. We're going to need all of your help. We're going to want all of your involvement. We're going to want to show the Republicans a great time, great hospitality while they're here. We're also going to want to show the nation and the world Northeast Ohio and how strong it is. So that site selection committee came in. They had their visit. And I think it went well. They left. They went on to Kansas City last week. Then they got up on Monday morning this week and they went to Denver. Spent a couple days there, flew to Dallas. And yesterday they concluded their site visits of the 4 cities. Where I would tell you I think we are is we're one of the top 2. I think that it's going to be between Cleveland and Dallas. And you know what? We're not going to beat Dallas on money. The state of Texas put up $25 million. They've got a special fund for a special events fund. They said, here's $25 million. We were glad we had raised $25 million total up here in Cleveland. That was just their state money, let alone the oil money, the private money that they had in there. So they've got the money, and they've actually, just because of being a bit larger, more vibrant commercially growing, you know, they didn't have Ted Strickland as governor for 4 years. We had that handicap leading into this effort. They do have a greater concentration of hotels. We're not going to be in the hotel. So we're in second place, and how do you beat the opponent? How do you land the convention here if you're not going to beat them on the 2 most important things? Well, those aren't the 2 most important things. Those are the 2 most important technical criteria. You got to be able to raise the money, and you got to have the hotels. Well, we meet their criteria. The RNC would meet their criteria. Is why we're at least in second place. But what the RNC needs to hear, and are going to hear, is what's that compelling narrative? Why do they come to Cleveland? Why would it make a difference to the Republicans to have their convention in Cleveland as opposed to Texas? I think Texas is a great place. I've been there a couple of times. It's solidly Republican. It's given us presidents. It is a vibrant area of commerce. It shows you what you can do with a better tax structure and without you being beholden to unions. Yeah, there's a lot to love about Texas. One thing I'll tell you, though, is that we're going to win Texas either way. Right here, how many of you all remember the phrase, the heart of it all? Right here in the heart of it all, you're near enough electoral votes that border or are 1 state away, driving distance to come here from this convention to be able to turn the election in 2016. You're right here in the place, and I don't say as much about Ohio being a swing state, although it is, but that cuts a little bit both ways. But Ohio is a swing state, that's key. But what it is more than that is, Ohio represents a microcosm of this country. Ohio really represents the people that our last 2 nominees have failed to connect with. Wonderful men, potential to be great leaders, far better than the president we have. But whether through their campaigns or their own faults or whatever reason, they failed to connect with the heart of this country, with the heartland of this country, with the working people of this country, and gain their confidence that that nominee, that the Republicans cared about them. That was the disconnect that we saw in exit polls and afterwards. That people, average people on the street, when asked about Mitt Romney or John McCain, one criticism they have is, when asked you think he cares about people like you? You think he cared about the problems you face? And their answer far too often was no. It was a majority that would say that. To come here, and the phrase I heard the site selection chair, Enid Mickelson, say, is she is looking for, her committee is looking for, the place that is the best site for the Republican Party to reintroduce itself to the nation. I can't think of anywhere better than right in the heart of the industrial Midwest, and right in downtown Cleveland, and right in Northeast Ohio, and with them spending their time out in all of the things that surround the city of Cleveland and Cuyahoga County, with all the great things that will connect this party with the heart of this country and get us back on track to being the party of the middle class, to being the party of those who aspire, the party of entrepreneurs and dreamers, the party of leaders. Let's do that. Let's show the RNC in 2014 we want this convention, we want them to make that decision, we're going to re-elect John Kasich and the statewide team and our members of Congress, that Ohio is solidly Republican. And then we're going to work with them going into 2016 to make the Republican Party even better. I ask your help in doing that as well, and I really thank you for your time here this morning.
Open it up for questions. Does anyone have a question?
I do. I was just wondering, here in Medina, we're pretty comfy and safe, and have great elections and really win here. In Cuyahoga County, what can we do to help you there? I know Brittany Williams is doing some great outreach, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about that.
Sure, thank you. Brittany, who Lisa referenced, by the way, is our executive director and state central committee woman, maybe immediately past